everyone, welcome back to the channel. Come on in. Welcome to Xennial Walkabout. It's basically a channel where I walk around the various places around where I live, which is in the Maryland area near Baltimore. I specifically live in Dundalk, but I'll travel around the various places within a reasonable drive of where I live and walk around and just discuss various topics from Xennial 80s and 90s stuff through today, and current affairs, and just all sorts of topics. I'm walking this park a little bit today. It's a beautiful day out, a little windy. I'm hoping that the audio comes out good here. We got wind, we got rain and more wind coming in overnight in the early morning hours. But yeah, getting out and getting some nice fresh air. It's a beautiful sunny day. I'm hoping that we get a lot more of these beautiful days out here in the coming weeks as we go into April, where I can make more videos. So I'm trying to get more video topics in as I can, as I have time off and from work, and we do have good weather out. So today what I want to talk to everybody about is basically stable jobs and now the gig economy. Stable jobs, stable careers to the gig, transitioning into a gig economy. And we'll probably touch on the topic of AI. We have AI entering the realm in the last few years. I'd say about the last two now. And it's starting to escalate into affecting everything. And I foresee that happening a lot more. Ooh, check out this path out of nowhere. Do I dare head into the woods here? Let's check it out. I've been through all these paths, it's been years. It's been a few years since I took my son down here and we walked back in here. Pretty cool. Looks a lot better when all the trees are green. You have a lot of shade. There's a tree that's down. So yeah, what I wanted to talk about is basically the process of where we were at and where we have come and where we're going to go into as in terms of careers. We had a stable, what we grew up with. We had a stable job market as Xennials for the most part early on. We were all taught to get your high school degree. That was like a must. It still is today in my eyes. You got to get at least your high school degree. We all were told we needed to go to college. If you wanted to make money in the future, you got to go to college. A lot of us did. I graduated in the class 2000. I was like the early on millennial. They started using that term millennial back in the 90s. And I was like, yeah, we're the class of the 2000, we're the class of the millennium, we're the first of the millennials. And then they changed a little bit and they said, well, millennials started being born in 81. So class of 99 and on. I was like, okay. We have some people coming up here. It's an awesome path.
Like when you get out, you're not gonna feel.
So yeah, we have us millennials going into the 2000s had a fairly stable job market. You could walk into anywhere and get a job. It wasn't that easy, but if you applied yourself and started applying to places, and back then there's very little online applying. That was a new thing in the early 2000s. Everything was still paper application. You would go to a few places. You could have a local job search, and within 10, 12 applications, you would have a job lined up. Within 4 or 5 or 6, you would have interviews. Some people were lucky enough to apply at one place and you get a job, an interview that day and get a job. Like, it was so easy. You were really looked down upon if you were not working. If you were not employed back in the year 2001, 2002, 2003, like, what are you doing with your life? That's basically what it was like. You should have a job. That's what we were all told. Like, everyone goes and works. That's what it was. Fast forward to 2008, everything changed. Gotta give you some more of the scenery here. Sort of like some gravel on the ground. So it's not completely dirt. You probably gravelled this in 20 years ago. So we got the gravel here. Cool bike path. Biking or walking. Roots coming up there. Another down tree. Lots of down trees. That's unfortunate. These trees will be here. They've probably been here for years. Will be here for many years. These ain't gonna be cleared out of here. They're just part of the scenery. Beautiful day for walking in the woods. Great weather. Come up on a big tree over here. Last time I was in here, which was years ago, I did not see so many down trees. I think during the pandemic, David and I came down here in 2020. We came and walked around outside a lot because everything was closed that summer and spring. And I don't remember it looking like this at all. Some pine cones on that tree. All right, so back to where I was about stable jobs in the 2000s. 2000s, we had a lot of stability up until around 2007. That's when it started. First inkling of change started occurring. 2006, people were spending money like crazy. It's a big money year. I was a young DJ, and lots of people getting married, lots of weddings in 2006. And I was working at Mama Lucia's, waiting tables. People were spending money eating out at restaurants. I was making good money in 2006, like easily $700 a week if I worked full time there, which is good money back then. You know, I worked a week and a half maybe, and I paid my rent for the month, my share of the rent. My younger brother and I worked when we moved out of my parents' house, we moved into a luxury apartment. New apartment built in 2005. Our rent was $14.40 a month in Montgomery Village, Maryland. And it seemed high. It was high. Everyone was like, "You're paying that much money for rent?" You know, because you could find a two-bedroom apartment back then for around $10.50, $1,100 in certain areas, especially up in Frederick, Maryland. You know, even $1,000 maybe still at some locations. But they were much lower quality, more older, basic apartments. So things were definitely more affordable, and you could still easily, I wouldn't say totally easily, but you could definitely make sure that you lived a fairly comfortable life as long as you worked your 40 hours a week at the time. And then 2008 came, and that changed everything. Then we had the recession, the market dropped out. The recession changed a lot for a lot of people. 2008 was very slow at the restaurant. Hit like a ton of bricks. So you could feel it. It was slowing down into the summer of 2007. But when you got into 2008, it was slow. I went from making $70 to $85 at lunchtime down to about $35, $40. And nighttime was another $35 to $50. So on a double, I was pulling like $80 in tips, $75 some days, $85, versus where I used to make $130, $140, $150 on a double on a regular day. So one more quick view of what's over here. You have the water. Tall marsh. It's actually a little taller than I remember it being the last time I was here, back in 2020. But yeah, that's what it looks like. So going back to 2008, I moved up to Dundalkin with my wife, and I was unemployed. I thought I could get a job fairly quickly. My son came, and I turned into Mr. Mom for a while. So I was unemployed. I left my job. I quit my job in November 2008 because it was a to be too far of a drive. It was would have been a 56-mile hike into work, and so I took the chance to quit my job. Went back to work in April. Was able to find a part-time job. April 2009. Tried to get in their offices. Tried to get into sales. Didn't hear anything back. Got a job in April 2009. Got hired on the spot. I got an interview at a DoubleTree hotel. It's actually a Holiday Inn at the time. Changed into a DoubleTree about a year later, and that's where I worked for about a year. After that, things slowly starting to improve. But waiting tables at the Holiday Inn was hit or miss. The restaurant could be dead. I had a night where I came in and made $6. Kid you not, I was there for 5 hours and made $6 in tips. And I was the only server there. I couldn't close down the restaurant early. I was so mad. But, 2009 was a rough year for making money. Even my DJ business was down a solid 50%. Had to cut prices that year to get some events. And it was just, I had about 50% of the work. It's much slower. And then I ended up with a slew of part-time jobs. I could not find full-time work for a long time, many years. So I really relied on my DJ business. I had restaurant jobs. I had a call center job. So it was like that a lot back then. So it was straight up like probably 4 or 5 years of basically working part-time jobs between 2009, 2000. No, it was over 5 years, 2014. So it really was like 5 solid years of part-time jobs. Before I started to get back on track. But then in 2015, Uber was getting really popular. It was actually already getting popular in 2014, but I got into it in 2015. I started doing Uber, driving around my SUV. I decided to do Uber XL, and I did that for a few months. Then Amazon Flex came out, and I got on board with Amazon Flex. I tried that out for a little bit. I was driving around delivering with Amazon Flex 2015. And then beyond that, I still had part-time positions. I could only get part-time work. 2016, 17, I could not get full-time employment anywhere. I was putting in for all sorts of applications. Now, one thing I will say is I limited myself. I only would apply to places in the Baltimore area. I didn't go out. I was refusing to drive over 40-minute drive. So basically, I was applying to places in Columbia, the furthest, Pasadena. I did do Owings Mills here and there, but that was a stretch from where Dundalk was. I was just unwilling to drive far for a job, so that I did limit myself. I think that hurt me as far as full-time career-wise in the 2010s. But I did finally get back on track with full-time in 2019. So it was an 11-year stint on full-time work. I worked full-time hours, but I had part-time jobs, and I was DJing. That's what I did throughout all the 2010s. So I think, I even did DoorDash when it was new. Before you could see the tips. They just, they charge people, they put the tip into the pay, and you'd get like a weird payment offer. Like, deliver this for $6.36. And that's how it was originally done with DoorDash back in, I can't remember what year I was doing that. See, I had my Mitsubishi Lancer. That was my secondary car, and so I didn't want to use my Traverse. I used old 2002 Mitsubishi Lancer to deliver food. I bought that in 2014. And I got 3, that went out in 2017, that Lancer died. Late 2017. Actually, no, I got more than that. It died in 2019. I had the Lancer through 2019. because I was using that base state when I did work full time. So I actually got 5 years out of that car. Great investment on return, by the way. I paid $3,100 for that car. Bought it off of a friend. And it didn't give me a lot of problems, but when it finally broke down, the transmission went. And I was like, oh, salt to pedal. Sold that car for cash quick. Left it on the side of the road and just had them come and pick it up. I knew it was a transmission. It was over. But anyway, back on track. 2019, 2018, I was living for DoorDash. So I did a lot of this, these gig economy things fairly early. These gig economy jobs, contractor jobs, whatever you want to call them, to make money with. I feel like the earlier you got in, the better it was, really, until it got saturated. And a lot more people were doing it. So that's my experience with the gig economy. I even did a lot of the Uber. I went back to Amazon Flex, and I went back to DoorDash and Grubhub in 2020. And I was basically doing it full time because I lost my full time job October of 2021. Or no, October of 2020. I lost my full time job and had about an 8-month stint where, of course, the government was slow. They weren't issuing unemployment in time, so I needed to make money. So I did DoorDash, Amazon Flex, and Grubhub, and I made good money. I was making between $550 and like $800 a week. I worked 5 days, some days only 4, but some weeks were only 4, but most weeks were 5. And I would put in at least 30 hours a week doing it. And I made decent money. It paid the bills. I got the bills paid. And then I was finally paid out on limited unemployment 8 months later. Almost 9 months. So it was like the tail end of May of 2021. I finally got unemployment payment from losing my full-time job. And then I got hired in another full-time job starting in June. So June? Yeah, June of 2021 I started there. Nice and quiet park. The wind's calmed down a little bit, which is great. Try to stay away from people as much as I can. The background noise. There's a plane there. Beautiful day out. So I wanted to give a quick recap of my story. In reference to the gig economy and how we have gone from jobs, stable jobs, to a lot more of us working side hustles. And now we have AI coming in. They're talking about automating the side hustles as much as they can and automating jobs as much as they can. Jobs the last few years, really honestly, guys and girls, have become temporary. They're not full-time. Generally speaking, they're not full-time work for 30 years type of jobs anymore. A lot of them have really become temporary, especially in the private sector. I know I have some friends that work government contract jobs or government affiliated jobs. They've been working it for years. So they really have a completely different adult working life than I have had. And you know, people like that probably look down on my particular experience with jobs and life. It is what it is. Let them look down on it. I'm not ashamed by it. You know, I've made ends meet. I've made things work. I have maintained a good credit score all my life. It's had drops here and there, but you know, usually when it drops, I'm able to return it back up into the high 700s or above 800 within 6 or 7 months. And I'm there right now. I'm around 800 right now with my credit score. Today I work full time. I've had a full-time job 4 years now. 4.5 almost. But there are inklings of AI affecting my job. You know, I feel like my job will eventually, once they decide to put money into computer programs that can do a lot of it, I think that they will eventually automate my particular job away. I think I'm safe for a few years, though. Especially the company I work at, they're slow at evolving with AI. We do have robots in our facility, but they're more like helper robots. They reduced the staff count a tiny bit when they came in, but not really. They're more like helper robots that help the pickers pick items. They bring items back and forth to a conveyor. And you still need people to load them, unload them, pick the item. They're really just automatic robots that carry the items back and forth. That's what they are in the boxes. So basically, instead of pushing a cart around, a big cart, and filling up a cart full of stuff, going around the warehouse and walking around the warehouse in circles, you're really not doing that anymore. You're here in a zone, and the robots kind of come to you back and forth, and you're picking them, and it's much easier on the pickers now. I don't do that job anymore. I did it for a little bit, starting out at my current company, but I'm in an office now. Ooh. Of water. Beautiful day out. It was nice. Oh, it looks like I missed a walkway here. Let's go down here. A little bridge path here. Pretty cool. So that really is the discussion I wanted to have today. What is your experience with going from stability, the normal job market, normal 8:30 to 5? By the way, I won't say 9 to 5 because that's a fake statement. What jobs are really ever 9 to 5? At a minimum, they're 8:30 to 5. You have to have a 30-minute break by law in the United States. Usually they're like 8:30 to 5:30, 8 to 5, you know, full-time day shift positions at companies or government. You always put in more than 40 hours for a 40-hour paycheck. Your time involved. If you have a 4-day schedule, you're at work at least 42 hours. 5-day, you're there at least 42 and a half. That's how it has always been. But, yeah. Can't get over what a nice day today is. I'm really looking forward to the grass growing out, trees blooming. I have bad allergies, but I'll get over that. It's only about a month, 5 weeks of it, and then it surpasses. Once you get into late May, it's all over. For me, it's starting up now just a tiny bit. I haven't really felt it yet because I have I take Zyrtec and I spray a nasal spray up my nose. But even with that, I will start feeling it in about mid-April. View of the water. Won't be able to see that water here when the stuff starts growing out. One way out. So that's my conversation for today. The gig economy, job market stability, how it's transformed over the last 25 years. Really started to change with the recession, in my opinion. And slowly over time after that, 2008, things started to change. Now we have AI entering the market. And it's going to progress. We have a recession, even though they're not telling us we are in a recession. A lot of Americans don't know it yet, but we're in a recession. Graduates can't find jobs. Teenagers can't find first-time jobs. It's been like that for a few years now. We had that surge in jobs and wage growth for like 2 years. Maybe 3 if you stretch it out, from about mid-2020 to mid-2023. But now we're entering the AI realm where they're just deleting all sorts of jobs. Once they get the robots made underway, that will change things a lot, even more. And I don't think that our kids today, they're not going to be able to work into their 60s. I don't think I'm going to be able to work into my 60s, honestly. I think that it'll change so much over the next 10 to 12 years that working will be nearly impossible for a living for most middle-class Americans today. Most of us, more than half, are going to have our jobs taken away, in my opinion, in the next 10, 12 years. There's going to be limited availability of jobs for younger folks. You know, they're already telling everyone to go into trades because that's the most safest. Plumber, electrician. I've heard it 1,000 times now. There's another down tree. Can't even go past the path here. Unless you want to get roughed up by tree branches. And I don't have a lot of boring statistics to tell you all. I don't do any research for these videos. I just start talking. Whatever comes to my head that day, that's what I'm talking about. So anyway, I want to cut this video because I'm getting near the half-hour mark. What is your experience with full-time jobs, the way the job market has gone, the gig economy, and now we have AI entering the realm? Has your job been taken away by AI already? To hear about that. Do you absolutely know if AI has replaced your job? Are you currently unemployed because you can't find work? Where are you at right now in 2026 with your position in the job market? I'd love to know. Let me know. Let me know your story. Anyway, I'm going to sign off here. Thanks for walking along with me virtually here. If you made it to the end of the video, please like and subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. I'm trying to grow the channel. I'm going to do as many of these videos as I can in 2026 and 2027. I'm going to keep it going. Thanks for watching today, and enjoy the rest of your day.